I never thought I'd be sharing my life story here, but I guess if I don't get this out, I might just explode. My name is Mike, and I'm a 35-year-old guy who thought he had it all figured out. I had a decent job as an IT consultant, a cozy home in the suburbs of Boston, and a wife whom I thought was my partner through thick and thin. Her name's Corinne, and we'd been married for almost 10 years. We were high school sweethearts, and for a long time I thought we were inseparable. But recently, things started to feel different. Somewhere along the line, Corinne started saying things like I didn't inspire her anymore. At first, I brushed it off as just the usual midlife crisis talk, but deep down, I felt there was something more going on. I tried to be supportive, to encourage her to pursue her passions, but the more I did, the more she seemed to pull away from me. She took up yoga classes, started going out with friends more often, and left me at home with our 2 kids on the weekends. I thought she just needed space or a break from family life. Boy, was I wrong. One Friday evening, I was working late, finishing up some projects that were due. Corinne had mentioned she'd be going out with her friends after work, so I figured I'd have the house to myself for a while. It was around 9 when I got a text from her saying she'd be home late. I was okay with that. I popped open a beer and started binge-watching some shows. Then, while scrolling through my phone, I noticed a notification from our shared Google account. I clicked on it out of curiosity and noticed a calendar entry that made my heart drop. It read, "Date night with Jake." My mind raced. Who the hell is Jake? I couldn't recall anyone by that name in our circle. It wasn't just that entry. I started rechecking our shared calendar and found other entries that sent a chill down my spine. Meeting with Jake and dinner with Jake. Suddenly, everything clicked into place. The late nights, the secretive phone calls that I brushed off as work-related, the shifts in her routine. I had been played for a fool. When Corinne finally came home, I was waiting for her. I confronted her right then and there, my heart pounding in my chest. "Who is Jake?" I demanded, trying to keep my voice steady, but I could feel the anger bubbling up inside me. To my surprise, she laughed it off at first. "Oh, come on, Mike, it's just a friend from yoga, you can't be serious." But I was serious. I pulled out my phone and showed her the calendar entries. Her face shifted from amusement to shock and finally to anger. "You went snooping through our stuff. That's low even for you," she shot back. Her eyes were wild, and I saw a side of her I'd never encountered before. I couldn't believe she was turning this around on me. I was the victim here, but she was spinning a web of lies. I pressed her harder, demanding the truth. "Is he your boyfriend? Are you cheating on me?" She hesitated, and for a moment I thought I caught a flicker of guilt in her eyes. But then she scoffed, leaning back against the kitchen counter with a defiant smirk. "Honestly, Mike, you've become so boring. I just wanted to feel alive again. Jake understands me. He inspires me." Her words were like a punch to the gut. I felt my world shatter around me as I processed the reality of her betrayal. I had given everything to this marriage, and here she was, flaunting her affair as if it was a trophy. I wanted to scream, to break things, to make her feel the pain I was experiencing. But instead, I felt a different kind of resolve take root within me. I realized I had to take control of my life again. As she continued to defend her actions, I felt a mix of anger and heartbreak. It was like she was justifying her affair as an escape from the mundane life I thought we were building together. But I had a different plan forming in my mind, one that would take me from being the victim to the one in charge. Stay tuned for what happens next. After that confrontation, I was left reeling. Corinne had managed to twist the narrative, making herself the victim of my insecurity rather than owning up to her betrayal. I couldn't quite wrap my head around it. I had always been the one who gave her the benefit of the doubt, who supported her through tough times. Yet here she was, casually discarding everything we had built together for some fleeting excitement with another man. The betrayal hit hard, but it also ignited something within me, a desire for revenge, a need to reclaim my life. In the days that followed, I found myself in a haze of emotions. Anger, sadness, confusion. It was a cocktail of feelings that left me utterly exhausted. I went through the motions of daily life while my mind raced. I started noticing changes in Corinne's behavior. She was more aloof, often distracted by her phone, and her laughter seemed forced. It was clear she was trying to juggle her double life, and I was determined to turn the tables. I didn't want to confront her again just yet. I wanted to gather evidence, so I started observing her closely. I took note of her schedule, watched when she left for yoga, and even followed her on a couple of occasions. I wasn't proud of this, but I had to know the truth. Each time I saw her with that guy, Jake, my heart sank deeper into my stomach. They seemed so at ease, laughing together, sharing moments that I thought were reserved for us. It was maddening. Then came the breakthrough. One Thursday evening, I decided to plant a seed of doubt in her mind. I casually mentioned that I had an old friend in town who wanted to catch up, a guy from college named Tom. I watched her reaction closely. Her eyes widened, and for a split second I saw panic flicker behind her facade. "Oh, cool. Is he single?" she asked, trying to play it cool. The jealousy was palpable, and it made me feel a twisted sense of satisfaction. I decided to escalate things. Over the next few weeks, I crafted a plan. I started to go out more, spending time with friends and getting involved in activities that I had neglected for years. I signed up for a kickboxing class, rediscovered my love for photography, and even started dating again, though I made sure to keep it casual. I wanted Karen to see that I wasn't the boring husband she had labeled me as. I wanted to remind her that I was still an interesting person, someone worth being with. The more attention I drew to myself, the more frantic Corinne became. She started texting me more often when I was out, wanting to know where I was and who I was with. I could sense her jealousy simmering just beneath the surface, and it fueled my resolve. I was no longer going to be the passive participant in this marriage. I wanted her to feel the same uncertainty and fear of losing me that I had felt with her. Then came the day when I finally decided to confront her with the evidence I had collected. I had taken screenshots of her calendar entries, photos of her with Jake, and some texts I had managed to capture during one of her late-night outings. I wanted to catch her off guard and make her realize the gravity of her actions. One night, after the kids were in bed, I sat her down in the living room. She looked tired, her hair in a messy bun, and I could see the bags under her eyes. "We need to talk," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. She rolled her eyes, clearly annoyed, but I pushed on. "I know about Jake." Her reaction was instantaneous. Her face went pale, and for a moment I thought she was going to deny it again. But this time I wasn't going to let her wiggle out of it. I pulled out my phone and showed her the evidence. The screenshots, the pictures, I laid it all out in front of her. "What do you think you're doing, Mike?" She shot back, her voice shaky but defensive. "This is a violation of my privacy." "It's a violation of my trust," I snapped back, feeling the fire rising in my chest. "You've been lying to me, Karen. You've been cheating on me. How long were you planning to keep this up?" Her bravado crumbled as she sank into the couch, burying her face in her hands. "I didn't mean for it to happen. I was looking for something more," she mumbled, her voice muffled. I felt a mix of anger and pity. "You were looking for something more because you couldn't appreciate what you had. I've been here putting in the effort while you were off playing house with someone else." The confrontation escalated, and Corinne's excuses poured out like a waterfall. "You stopped being exciting. I wanted to feel something. I thought you'd understand, but you're just so boring now." The words cut deep, but I held my ground. "So infidelity was the answer. That's how you found excitement?" I asked incredulously. In that moment, I realized that whatever I decided to do next had to be about me. The emotional impact of her betrayal was crushing, but I was beginning to understand that I needed to reclaim my self-worth. I was done being the victim. I had to make a decision, and it wouldn't just be about revenge. It would be about taking back control of my life. The stage was set for the next chapter of this unfolding drama, and I was determined to walk away with my head held high, regardless of what that meant for my marriage. After that explosive confrontation, the air in our house thickened with tension. I could sense it in the way Corinne avoided eye contact, the silence that stretched between us like an unbridgeable chasm. The kids were oblivious, blissfully unaware of the storm brewing between their parents, and I was grateful for that. But every moment spent in the same space felt like nails on a chalkboard. Corinne tried to backtrack, saying that she didn't mean to hurt me, that it was just a mistake. but I was done listening to her excuses. I felt like she had torn a piece of my heart out and was now trying to slap a Band-Aid on it while expecting everything to be fine. I couldn't believe I had ever trusted her so completely. The woman I thought I knew was fading away, replaced by someone I barely recognized. I decided then and there that I needed to take decisive action. I started reaching out to friends I hadn't spoken to in ages. I wanted to build a support network, people who could help me through this. I went out for drinks, reconnected with old buddies, and even joined a local photography club. Each outing felt liberating, a small step toward reclaiming my identity outside of the marriage that was crumbling around me. Meanwhile, Karen seemed to be on a different path. Initially, she pleaded for forgiveness and promised to end things with Jake, but I could tell she was struggling. One night, I overheard her on the phone, her voice low and conspiratorial, laughing as she made plans with him. It infuriated me. The audacity of it all. I felt a surge of anger bubbling inside me, but instead of confronting her again, I decided to channel that energy into my own life. While I was out reconnecting with friends, I learned about a local art exhibit featuring a photographer I greatly admired. It was a chance to immerse myself in something I loved, to surround myself with creativity and inspiration. I made plans to go, secretly hoping Karen wouldn't even notice I was gone. I knew she was too wrapped up in her own mess to care, and that realization fueled my resolve even more. As the date of the exhibit approached, I began to feel a strange sense of excitement. It wasn't just about the art. It was about reclaiming my sense of self. The Mike who had faded into the background while trying to support Karen was starting to reemerge. I dressed up for the event, taking time to look my best, a nod to the man I used to be. When I arrived at the gallery, I was struck by the energy of the place. People mingled, discussing the pieces on display, and I felt a sense of belonging wash over me. I started chatting with other attendees, and for the first time in a long while I felt alive. Someone even complimented my photography skills, and I felt a spark of pride. But just as I was starting to enjoy myself, my phone buzzed with a text from Karen. "Where are you?" It read, followed by a series of frantic messages. "I need to talk to you. It's urgent." My heart sank. I had been hopping to avoid her for a while longer, but I couldn't ignore her plea. I stepped outside the gallery, taking a deep breath before I called her back. "What's going on?" I asked, trying to keep my tone neutral. "I need to talk to you. It's important." Her voice was shaky, and I could practically hear the anxiety in her tone. "Can you come home?" Against my better judgment, I agreed. I made my way back, the anticipation gnawing at me. What could she possibly say that would change anything? As I walked through the front door, I was met with a sight that my stomach dropped. Karen was sitting on the couch, her eyes red and puffy from crying. She looked like a wreck, and for a moment I felt a flicker of pity, but that quickly faded. "What is it, Karen?" I asked, trying to maintain my composure. "I want to end things with Jake," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "I've realized I made a terrible mistake." I couldn't help but scoff. "You think just saying that will erase everything? You messed up, Karen. You shattered this family." "I know. I know, but I'm trying to fix this. I want us to go to couples therapy. I'll do whatever it takes," she pleaded, her eyes wide, desperate for understanding. I felt a mix of anger and confusion. "And why should I believe you? How do I know you won't just run back to him when things get tough again?" I promise. I just want to make it right," she insisted, reaching for my hand. I pulled away, needing space. "You need to understand something, Karen. I can't just forget what you did. You broke my trust, and that's not something that can be repaired overnight." Her face fell, and I could see the realization hit her. I had taken my power back, and it terrified her. But I wasn't doing this for her, I was doing it for me. I needed to think about my future and what I wanted out of this relationship. "I need time to think," I said firmly. "What you want isn't going to happen just because you say so." With that, I turned and walked away, leaving her sitting on the couch in shocked silence. I felt a strange mix of satisfaction and sadness. I didn't know what the next steps would be, but I knew one thing for certain. I wasn't going to let her control my happiness anymore. I would forge my own path, and whatever that looked like, I was determined to make it one worth taking. As I lay in bed that night, the weight of everything settled heavily on my chest. I realized this journey was just beginning, and I had the power to decide how it would unfold. I was ready to reclaim my life, and nothing was going to stand in my way. In the days that followed my confrontation with Karen, I found myself in a strange limbo. The house was filled with a tense silence, an unspoken agreement that things had irrevocably changed between us. I kept my distance while still managing the day-to-day activities, making sure the kids were cared for and busy with their own lives. But when I looked at Karen, I saw not the woman I once loved but a stranger, someone who had made a choice that shattered our family. I threw myself into my work and my new hobbies. The kickboxing sessions felt like a cathartic release, allowing me to channel my pent-up frustrations into powerful punches. I felt stronger than I had in years, not just physically but mentally. I was reclaiming my identity and I relished the feeling. Each session became a way to release the anger, the hurt, the betrayal, and I found camaraderie with the other members of the class. Then there was photography. I started documenting the little things in my life, the kids playing in the backyard, sunsets over the city, the small moments that made life beautiful. It felt liberating to express myself creatively. I even entered a local photography competition, something I would have never considered doing before. I wanted to show Karen that I was more than just her husband. I was a person in my own right with dreams and passions that didn't revolve around her. But no matter how busy I kept myself, the reality of our strained marriage loomed large. Karen continued to reach out, attempting to initiate conversations about therapy and healing. I could see the sincerity in her eyes, but I remained guarded. I had put up walls to protect my heart, and while part of me wanted to believe that she was genuinely remorseful, the other part of me couldn't shake the feeling that she'd easily slip back into her old ways. I needed to see tangible change, not just empty promises. One evening, I decided to take the kids to dinner at our favorite burger joint. It was a routine we had enjoyed before everything fell apart. As we sat there, the laughter and chatter of families filled the air, and for a moment I felt a sense of normalcy wash over me. But that peace was short-lived. Just as I was finishing up, my phone buzzed with a text that sent chills down my spine. It was a message from Karen. "We need to talk. It's about Jake, please." I felt a knot form in my stomach. I didn't want to deal with this tonight, but I knew I couldn't ignore it. After we finished dinner and I got the kids settled at home, I reluctantly made my way back to our house. When I walked in, Karen was already waiting for me, her face a mask of anxiety. "What's going on?" I asked, trying to keep my tone steady. "I ended things with Jake," she said, her voice trembling slightly. "But it's more complicated than that. He's threatening to tell you things I don't want to come between us." My heart raced. "What things? What does he have on you?" I demanded, a mix of anger and fear surging through me. "He has pictures from when we were together," she admitted, her eyes welling with tears. "He's saying he'll show them to you if I don't keep seeing him. He wants me back, and I'm terrified of what he might do." I felt a wave of nausea wash over me. The thought of Karen being manipulated by someone like Jake made my blood boil. This guy was a coward, preying on the vulnerability of a woman who had already betrayed me. "You need to go to the police or something. You can't let him control your life like this," I exclaimed. "I don't know if that would help. I don't want you to find out things that would hurt you even more," she cried, her voice cracking. In that moment, I realized I had a choice to make. I could either let this man continue to hold power over our lives, or I could take control of the situation. "Listen, Karen, this can't keep going on. You need to cut all ties with him, not just for me, but for yourself. You need to be serious about moving forward," I said firmly. She nodded, her face pale, and I could see the fear in her eyes. It was a fear I understood all too well. "I'll do it, I promise," she whispered. But even as she spoke, I could sense the uncertainty beneath her words. "Let's make a plan. If he reaches out to you again, you tell me. We'll handle it together," I said, trying to instill some semblance of strength into our fractured relationship. I didn't trust her completely, but I realized that we were both dealing with the aftermath of her choices. As I left that night, I felt a strange mix of anger and hope. Could this be the turning point? Could we actually rebuild something from the ruins of our marriage? I didn't know. The thought of her still held the potential for further betrayal, but I was also beginning to see glimpses of the woman I had fallen in love with, the woman who might still be in there, fighting to come back. But I knew that I had to be cautious. Trust was hard to rebuild, and I had to be prepared for whatever lay ahead. I wanted to believe in our potential, but I also had to protect myself. The path forward was murky, but for the first time in a while it felt like we might be moving forward, together or apart, I couldn't say. But at least we were moving. This was the battle I was facing, and it was far from over. Whatever happened next, I was resolved to face it head-on, ready to no longer be a victim of our circumstances. I would reclaim my life, my identity, and no one, not even Karen, could take that away from me. The following weeks became a whirlwind of uncertainty and emotional turmoil. Karen's decision to end things with Jake seemed genuine, but the shadow of his threat loomed over us like a dark cloud. I tried to keep things as normal as possible for the kids, but every day felt like a balancing act between maintaining a semblance of family life and dealing with the chaos that was our marriage. I had suggested couples therapy, something I hoped would help us navigate through our issues. Karen agreed, and we found a local therapist who specialized in infidelity and relationship rebuilding. I approached the first session with a mix of skepticism and hope. Would it really help us, or was it just another attempt to placate the guilt she felt? When the day arrived, we sat across from the therapist, a calm and collected woman named Dr. Harris. She had a way of making you feel heard, and I slowly started to feel the tension in the room. Ease, if only slightly. Karen opened up about her feelings of dissatisfaction, how she felt trapped in a routine that had lost its spark. I listened, biting my tongue, trying not to react too strongly. "I want to understand how we got here," Dr. Harris began, her voice soothing but firm. "Karen, can you articulate what you were feeling before you sought that connection outside of your marriage?" As Karen talked about her feelings of being unappreciated, I felt the familiar sting of hurt rise up in me. While I understood that she had been searching for something, it was hard to hear her framing her choices as my shortcomings. I had been the one working late, taking care of the kids, trying to provide us with a comfortable life. "Mike, how did that make you feel?" Dr. Harris turned to me. I took a deep breath, knowing this was my moment to express my pain. "It made me feel like I was invisible," I replied, my voice steady. "I put everything into this family, and when I heard her say I didn't inspire her anymore, it felt like a dagger. I didn't know how to be more than what I was. I thought we were building a life together." Karen looked down at her hands, shame washing over her face. "I was selfish," she said softly. "I just wanted more. I didn't think it would turn into this." The session continued, and for the first time I saw a raw vulnerability in her that I hadn't recognized before. It was clear that both of us had a lot of work to do. We left the session with a glimmer of hope, but also a heavy burden. There was no quick fix for the damage that had been done. As the weeks went by, we continued our therapy sessions, and they became a safe space for both of us to unravel our feelings. Karen began to take responsibility for her actions, and I started to express my own frustrations more openly. It wasn't easy, but I felt like we were making progress. Then came the day when everything changed again. I received a text from an unknown number while I was at work. My heart raced as I opened it, already bracing myself for something terrible. It read, "I hope you're still keeping an eye on your wife. She's been talking to me again. Jake." Anger surged through me like a tidal wave. I felt the blood drain from my face as I read it again. How could he be so brazen? I knew I had to confront Karen immediately. I rushed home, my mind racing with a whirlwind of thoughts. What had she done this time? When I walked into the house, Karen was cooking dinner, seemingly unaware of what was about to unfold. "We need to talk," I said, my voice firm. She turned, her smile fading as she saw the look on my face. "What is it, Mike?" I pulled out my phone and showed her the message. "He's back in the picture," I said, my voice low, almost a growl. "Are you still talking to him?" Her face paled and I could see panic rising. "No, I swear I haven't. I did exactly what we talked about." "You expect me to believe that? Because here's the thing, Karen, he's following up. He's threatening me. What did you tell him? My voice escalated, the frustration boiling over. I haven't spoken to him, I swear. I cut him off for good. I have the text messages to prove it. She cried, her eyes wide with desperation. Please, you have to believe me. I didn't know what to think. I wanted to believe her, but the doubt gnawed at my insides. Then let me see your phone. Show me the messages, I demanded, feeling a mixture of trust and betrayal swirling inside me. She hesitated for a moment, then nodded. Okay, I'll show you. She handed me her phone and I scrolled through her messages. My heart sank as I found nothing for weeks. See, I haven't talked to him. But just as I was about to pass it back to her, I noticed a notification on the screen, an unknown number. My pulse quickened as I opened it, revealing a series of texts from Jake sent just a few days prior. I miss you, Karen. One read. We had something real. You know you want to see me again. I felt the ground drop from beneath my feet. You lied to me. I shouted, anger exploding from my chest. You said you cut him off. How could you do this again? I was going to tell you. I was trying to end it, I swear. She pleaded, tears streaming down her cheeks. I didn't know how to tell you. I was scared. Scared? You think that's an excuse? You could have come to me, but instead you went behind my back. I was fuming, my voice echoing in the small kitchen. Please, I'm trying to fix this. I don't want to lose you. She cried, her hands trembling, but I was done. I couldn't sit there listening to her excuses any longer. You have to make a choice, Karen. You can't keep playing both sides. You either commit to this marriage fully or let it go. I'm not going to be your backup plan. As I stormed out of the house, I felt a sense of finality wash over me. I had given her numerous chances to come clean, to choose us, and she had squandered them. It was clear to me now that I could no longer rely on her to make the right choices. I needed to take control of my life, my happiness, and my future. As I stepped out into the night air, I felt a mixture of anger, sadness, and determination. This was a turning point, whether she realized it or not. I had to decide what I wanted moving forward, and I was done living in the shadow of her betrayal. It was time for me to prioritize myself and take back the power I had lost. Whatever the future held, it was going to be on my terms, and I was ready to face whatever came next. In the aftermath of my explosive confrontation with Corinne, I felt a strange mix of relief and sorrow. I had finally taken a stand, but the reality of what that meant weighed heavily on me. Walking away from the house, I realized I was at a crossroads, and I had to decide which path I would take moving forward. I spent the next few days in a haze. I avoided talking to Corinne, needing time to process everything that had happened. I called my friends, seeking solace and advice. They urged me to be strong, to prioritize my own well-being. I began to see that the longer I allowed Corinne to dictate the terms of our relationship, the longer I would be stuck in a cycle of heartache. One evening, as I sat alone, reflecting on everything, I realized I had to face the harsh truth. I could no longer wait for Corinne to change. I had been hoping for a miracle that could fix our marriage, but the reality was that trust had been shattered beyond repair. The infidelity, the deceptions, and the emotional roller coaster were too much to bear. I decided it was time to have a serious conversation with Corinne, one that would ultimately define our future. I called her to meet at a local coffee shop, a neutral ground where we could talk without the distractions of home. As I sat at a table waiting for her to arrive, I felt a mix of anxiety and determination. This was it. I had to lay everything out on the table. When Corinne arrived, she looked nervous, her hands fidgeting with her purse as she took a seat across from me. Mike, I'm sorry about everything. I've had time to think and I know I messed up, she began, her voice trembling. I took a deep breath and spoke firmly. I can't keep doing this, Corinne. The lies, the betrayal, it's too much. I've tried to give us a chance, but I can't ignore what's happened. I need to let you know that I can't stay in this marriage anymore. Her face fell and I could see the shock settle in. What do you mean? You can't just give up on us. We can work through this. She pleaded, desperation flooding her voice. Yes, we could have worked through this, but you made decisions that left me no choice. You didn't just hurt me, you hurt our family. I can't rebuild what's been destroyed, I replied, my voice steady. I need to prioritize my own happiness and well-being now. Tears filled her eyes as she struggled to find the words. I was a fool. I thought I wanted something different, but it was a mistake. I want to fight for us, she said, her tone shifting from desperation to anger. You can't just leave me. I'm not leaving you just because I want to, I'm leaving because I have to. I can't be in a relationship where I'm constantly doubting your loyalty. I need to move on, I said, feeling a mix of sadness and liberation. Corinne's hands shook as she wiped away her tears, frustration boiling beneath her surface. You can't just throw away everything we built, our family, our kids, she shouted, and I could see the hurt and anger battling within her. I'm not throwing anything away. I'm choosing to rebuild my life without the constant threat of betrayal. The kids deserve a father who is happy and whole, I replied, trying to stay calm under the emotional storm. As the reality of our situation sank in, I could see the facade of strength begin to crack. I loved you, Mike. I was stupid, but I loved you, she said, her voice breaking. I know, and I loved you too, but love isn't enough when there's no trust. I wish things could have been different, but this is the path I have to take for myself and our children, I said, my heart heavy. We sat in silence for a moment, both of us grappling with the finality of my decision. The weight of our broken marriage hung heavily between us, and I felt an overwhelming sense of loss. But amidst that loss, there was a flicker of hope, hope for a future where I could rediscover myself and build a life that was authentically mine. Eventually, we parted ways, and as I walked away from the coffee shop, I felt an unexpected sense of relief wash over me. I had made a choice that felt right, even if it was painful. I had taken control of my own life, and that was a step toward healing. In the following weeks, I focused on my own growth. I dedicated more time to my photography, taking on clients and showcasing my work. I made it a point to be present for my kids, creating new memories that would help us heal from the chaos. Slowly but surely, I began to reclaim my identity, and with that came a renewed sense of purpose. Corinne and I continued to co-parent, navigating our new relationship as ex-spouses. It wasn't easy, but as time passed, we learned to communicate better, focusing on the well-being of our children rather than reliving past grievances. Reflecting on this journey, I realized that sometimes the hardest decisions lead to the most significant growth. I had learned the importance of self-respect and the power of choice. Relationships can be complex, and sometimes love isn't enough to bridge the gaps created by betrayal. If there's one piece of advice I can offer to anyone who finds themselves in a similar situation, it's this. Don't hesitate to prioritize your own needs and well-being. It's okay to step back and reclaim your life. Healing takes time, but every step you take toward your own happiness is a step worth taking. As I look ahead, I feel excited about the future, one that I am finally ready to embrace on my own terms. I am Mike, not just Corinne's husband, but an individual with dreams, passions, and a renewed sense of self. And for the first time in a long time, that feels like enough.